Prop Sessions is brought to you by Prop Media, who partner with agents to generate 50 exclusive seller and buyer leads every single month on autopilot. That's guaranteed, or you get your money back. If you're interested in trying out Prop Media risk-free, head over to www.propmedia.co.uk to book a call today. Now.
Welcome back to another session of Prop Sessions, the podcast that brings together and showcases innovative business and leaders within the property industry. Today, I'm really excited to bring on Simon Taylor. Simon Taylor is no ordinary estate agent. He has a business called Property with Simon. Not just that, though, he's been an agent for 20 years. He is the founder of a territory with Purple Bricks in East London. He grew a team from 1 to 15 within 5 years, coming all the way up to number one in market share for both sales and agreeds. He also ran that team who are responsible for £1 billion in property transactions. We'll get into that a bit later on. He's also an investor. He's also married and has 2 young kids and a really beautiful dog named T, I believe, if I got that right.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for having me on.
Wonderful. Pleasure to have you on, Simon.
Thank you.
Cool. So to start, I'd love to just go into, how you actually started out, how you came up with the idea of Property with Simon.
Well, things had come to an end of the road with the company that I was with before that you name checked them, so I'll mention them again, which was Purple Bricks. And it was a lot of fun there. I made a lot of friends. It was a great atmosphere. But with the journey, with the company going down a slightly different road to my ethos, to my way of thinking, and really a burning desire to properly do things my own way and my own style, and I'd been brewing in my head to offer a more premium service, a more bespoke service, a more boutique service, if you will, since last summer. And then slowly but surely these ideas have come to fruition. And I've launched with it's Simon Taylor, me. It's my name above the door. The domain, yes, Property with Simon, and I've partnered with EXP, and who are an international PLC quoted on the American Stock Exchange, and slowly venturing into the UK. And what I like about them is venturing into the world of self-employed estate agency. It can be quite daunting, and when you're used to working in nice firms or big organisations, you bounce ideas off others around you. And certainly, I can speak for Purple Bricks, where there was lots of self-employed territory owner founders from the early days of Purple Bricks, from when I was involved in, and we shared ideas and what works and what doesn't work, and we grew it and we built it. Sort of having at EXP, it's very similar, where you've got that camaraderie and structure in terms of there's infrastructure there in terms of support with CML software and sharing ideas. So I love the idea of flying solo, which EXP allows me to do, because at the end of the day, it's Property with Simon and Simon Taylor, and EXP is very much in the background, but then the support is there. It's almost like I'm self-employed, but part of a club at the same time, with like-minded individuals who, pride themselves on doing a great job, offering good estate agency. And the appeal was really that there's a lot of agents like me who were either getting a bit bored, fed up with the company that they were with, and wanted a little bit of a challenge. And to be honest with you, in many respects as well, it's about the money too, and there's want a bigger slice of the fee pie.
Absolutely. So with EXP, when did you kind of move over to them, just to get a bit of context?
So literally just a couple of months ago, I first flirted with EXP and got the ball rolling with conversations last August, with a chap called Adam Day, who runs the UK operation. And it's progressed from there. And lockdown has been quite, should we say, good timing, because it's given me time to get my website ready, propertywithsimon.com, warm clients up, and get the infrastructure at my end all in place so that lockdown comes to an end and bing, bang, bosh, I'm ready to go. And that's time flies, and I've tried to use lockdown as productively as I possibly can, and that time to get all that ready has been a bit of a blessing, because I finished with Proper Bricks only a matter of a few weeks before lockdown really kicked in. So I've had trying to do all of that, plus maybe stay at an existing agency and run, would have been very tricky. So I'm blessed to have a little bit of that extra time, that cushion to get things in order.
One of the things that really stood out to me when we initially connected was that you are at the forefront of the business. It's you, like you said, it's Simon Taylor, it's Property with Simon. On your boards, it's you standing there. It's a nice, lovely picture of you standing there.
Yeah, that's me.
I know the reasons why I love that approach to it and why I think that's going to be the future of it. But I'd love to know what your reason was for going with that more kind of personal approach.
I think, and I'm sure many agents who are perhaps listening to this, who've maybe, like me, I've got 20 years experience. So, I've worked in several estate agencies over the years, and you pick up some great clients over the years that follow you. And to be honest, a lot of these clients couldn't care less whether you're at agent X, Y, or Z. They're buying into you. And it's amazing that, the amount of clients that have said to me over the years, we want, wherever you are, we'll go. Or in Proper Bricks, when it was the cheap fee, people would say, well, we wanted to use you anyway. And the fact that you were the cheapest fee, it just became a bit of a no-brainer. So, if you're a good agent, if you perceive yourself to be a good agent, and you get recommendations and you get a lot of repeat business, people are buying into you. And property, though some firms maybe believe that the future is tech, I actually think, especially over the next few years where things are going to be a little bit bumpy, tech's great, but it's relationships, and it's that people skills and the ability to diffuse situations and nurse a sale all the way to exchange and completion. It's you that the client wants and likes and trusts. The name of over the door is almost a little bit of a irrelevance. So it was a bit, I felt, I say a little bit brave. I was humming and hawing, do I put my face on the board? And my wife's like, oh, for goodness sake, don't do that. That sounds terrible. And somebody else said to me, God, that sounds awfully cheesy. And I'm like, yeah, it kind of does sound cheesy, doesn't it, having my face on a name on the board? But I think the boards that my brand agency have designed for me, it actually looks well, and it's different, and it stands out. And you know what? If they're buying into me, my clients, then I've got to put me front and center. And that is very much becoming, I think, a feature of the property landscape or the estate agency landscape over the next 5 to 10 years, where you're going to see less high street brands out there. You're going to see less high street office agencies. And there's going to be lots of people that want to go into a self-employed estate agency. And like me, had I been around 20 years ago, I would have taken an office on the high street and had the window cards and had half a dozen desks in the office. But those days are over. I did a poll on LinkedIn only last week asking what the number one reason was were people to choose or select their estate agency. Circa, it was 6% of the votes were, well, they've got to have a high street agent. So 94% of the people on my poll admitted it was a small poll, but they perceive that having an office is no longer relevant. So if the office is no longer relevant, and I think I became fed up of building somebody else's brand, getting reviews for somebody else's brand, and you know what, I've taken the view of the only person's brand that I'm going to be building from now on is mine, because at the end of the day, it's my work, it's my effort, and it's my endeavors. Therefore, it's me. It's brand Simon Taylor. And I know I speak for many, especially on LinkedIn, where there's a lot of self-employed agencies. And it's guys and girls wanting to put themselves on the center stage, because at the end of the day, that's who it's all about. And when I was at Purple Bricks, and you have a chat with the customers when you're sat in the living room, we're discussing value over a cup of tea and telling them a bit about you, etc. And always stress the point that this is my business, this is my territory, this is my area. And that was like, wow, yeah, really? Oh, we didn't know that. So I think there's very much a mentality amongst the UK property market from sellers' perspective, that they like the idea of working with the guy, the head honcho, the guy at the coalface doing the viewings and doing the valuations is going to be the guy that answers the phone at 9 o'clock at night or replies to a WhatsApp message to me on a Sunday, that is going to look after me the whole way through. We've all dealt with companies, whether you're buying a kitchen or a car or a property, or you're introduced to the salesman, and then their bit's over, and then you're passed from pillar to post onto the next section, and that's not what I'm about. So you'll find me I was on a photo shoot today, vendor in attendance, just moving things around, making sure everything looks shipshape. I'll be attending the viewings. The vendor will see me on the viewings. I'll be doing the dealing with the offer negotiation, which I love. I'll be doing the due diligence on any buyers that come to the table, and I'll be nursing the sale all the way to completion. I think that's what sellers really want. They don't want, well, Jane does that bit and Bob does this bit and Sarah does the other bit in between. I think dealing with one person front to back, front to end, is actually quite liberating for a vendor to hear. And do you know what? You build relationships with people that way. And I've never really would be one to pass the buck. And, the old adage, if you want a job doing, do it yourself. And I think some agents may be, oh, well, I don't really want to do the viewings. We just leave that to my negs in the office. But I enjoy viewings. And, you're meeting people, you're having a chat about property, and you just don't know, those viewers might have something to sell down the road, and one thing leads to another, as they say, and there's another instruction one from doing a viewing. So I actually think that good agents are probably missing out on not doing their viewings. They're missing a trick by maybe leaving it to somebody more junior in the office, possibly, or even, dare I say it, some firms are even outsourcing their viewings to other providers, which I don't think is necessarily the right thing to do.
So on that point, it's clear the approach you're taking. It's much more personalized. It's 360. They're dealing with you and only you. Coming into this kind of new model that you're doing now, from previously when it was the purely online model, probably the most well known, Purple Bricks. How do you kind of go from going from that model to this model, which in some ways is, you could view it on the surface as far apart as they could possibly be? Was there a turning point? How did that decision come about to actually go working in this model to this model?
Well, my style, whether I've been at a high street agency, or whether I've been at Purple Bricks, or whether I'm doing my own thing now, Simon Taylor, propertywithsimon.com, I've not changed. I've not really, personally, I've not pivoted. And in many respects, the Simon Taylor doing the estate agency for a significantly cheaper fee was the same at Purple Bricks. But and there are lots of great agents at Purple Bricks, and there's lots of great agents on the high street, but there's also lots of very poor agents in both of the above. And I took the view that although I was running myself ragged, and to make a good living, one needed to be doing 15 to 20, in some cases 25 deals per month. And that's just not sustainable. And I much prefer the idea of dealing with a handful of clients at any one time. And in a market that's more buoyant, I knew what I was doing, and I was able to take on 15 to 20 properties per month. When the market was more buzzy and booming, and you take it on a Saturday and you do 8 open days, and on Monday, Tuesday they're all gone, then you start afresh. That was sustainable, but only for so long. And as the market gets a little bit stickier, the agent on the lesser fees is still going to be under the pressure to get more and more to make up to a decent income. And there's going to be the pressure to take on too much stock. And if you take on too much stock, the wheels start to gum and things start to fall out of bed and service starts to suffer. So I like the idea, the pivot. So my style of agency in terms of treating people as I'd want to be treated myself has never really changed. But where I am, and what I can do now, I've got more time to really look after 10, 12 clients at any one time. I don't really want any more than that. And in some instances, in my former firm, I felt a little bit guilty by maybe not speaking to people at times maybe as much as I should have done, or perhaps not nursed a sale all the way to completion in the timely manner that I should have done, because I was just juggling too many balls. So I really want to be doing, listen, I love estate agency, and many people listening to this it's the sort of industry that grabs you by the balls and doesn't let go, and you love it, and then you hate it, and then you love it, and then you hate it, and you meet some lovely people, and then that restores your faith in humanity and estate agency. It can be a roller coaster of emotions, estate agency, but I enjoy it. But I know, and I can't speak for everybody, but I know that if you put a stock list of 40, 50, 60 properties on my shoulders, no matter how good an estate agent I am, I'm not going to be overly effective, because I'm spreading myself far too thin. And that is the style that many of the online players are going down, where the local property experts are nursing huge stocks of inventory. Huge stocks of inventory that I feel that if the vendors knew how many other properties were on the books with that said agent, they wouldn't be overly impressed. And as I say, I just wanted to run everything myself. From dealing with finding a buyer is only half the story, half the sale, and the other half is moving things along to exchange and then completion, and that takes skill as well, and firefighting problems when they arise. And I think I'm going to be better placed to deal with that personally than relying on a head office function to perhaps do that for me. And I'm going to be more proactive, where at the former firm that I was at, they were very much reactive rather than proactive. So I think I'll be able to shorten the time in terms of things take to exchange and complete. And I'm going to be a better agent for dealing with less properties. It's more of a Rolls Royce red carpet type service, because I'm not spreading myself as thin. And I'm going to be a better dad and a better husband. And I'm going to be, I'm just going to have should we say, a less stressed life, because dealing with 50, 60 properties when you want to do a good job, it can be stressful. And though running my own ship now is still going to be stressful, I think it's going to be a more enjoyable stress dealing with offering a more bespoke service. I'm going to be a happier bunny, rather than running around like a blue arse fly. And many listeners, many agents, I'm sure, will be able to relate to that thinking, I would think.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess that's the thing, isn't it? You can only provide, if you're working for yourself, there's only so far that you can go in terms of the amount of service that you can provide. And it's exactly the same with us. We're boutique. We have a cap on our number of clients for the exact same reason. And I think those other elements of actually just your life, like you said, being able to be a better dad, a better husband, I know you're chief dog walker of the family. All of those things, you then get more time to actually put into those things that you love, which I guess ultimately, is going to be one of the main reasons why anybody wants to go out and become self-employed or start their own venture. It's to have more freedom. So shifting gears for a second. So before, no secret, there would have been a good size marketing spend that would have fed into the business to generate that kind of level you were working on in terms of leads coming in. What's your approach now? Obviously now you're fully responsible for yourself. What's your approach now to attract?
And I would like to think that many territory owners or branch managers or area directors of agencies will empathise with this, which is, do you know something? Good agents often end up moving from doing valuations and an offer negotiation to maybe running a branch, and then you run a branch, and then you run the area, and then you maybe become an area director, and you become a people manager. And that's what I became in my former firm. And do you know something? I'm enjoying being at the coalface of a state agency, and in some respects falling back in love with a profession in an industry that I love, because I had probably been growing fatigued and tired from it all. And I think the people management and managing a large team of others, it can be quite draining and takes it sidesteps you away from what you really actually enjoy doing within the job. So in terms of what I'm doing to generate business, it's old tried and tested techniques from which is why I wanted to do branding, and branding so important to me. So I've worked with a branding agency to build my website and do it properly. I've got adverts running on Facebook and online. I'm doing targeted valuation leads online, which I had to set aside a budget for, which is putting in leads. And to be honest, I'm other agents' stock, the low-hanging fruit, as I would call it. So if I'm seeing properties that are available for sale or have been for sale for 3 months or longer in my territory, in the areas that I'm working, I'll be honest, I'm trying not to miss any tricks. That's the low-hanging fruit, and I'm writing to them, and I'm knocking on doors, and I'm doing the things. I'm hustling, basically. And if you're not prepared to hustle, then self-employed estate agency isn't for you. I am prepared to hustle. I'm not frightened to knock on a door. I'm not frightened for them to tell me to go away. But, if you kiss enough frogs, you'll find a prince or a princess, and that's what I'm there to try and do. And so far, it's working. It's a numbers game. I know it's that cliched, but just like an online estate agent or a high street agent, everything is a numbers game, and you just try and tweak it and massage it and adjust it to see what's working. So I've been running some split test adverts online for valuations, which images are bringing in the most leads, and you just tweak and adapt and learn. But I think I can tell you what I won't be doing. What I will never do is just blank canvas 20,000 leaflets to any old front door. Fully prepared to put something through somebody's door if they're already on the market, or they've requested a valuation from one of my valuation tools. But just a blank canvas, as I used to do many years ago in the high street, and would send out 10,000 and would get 3 phone calls and would say, Jesus, that was brilliant. I'm not doing that. I just think that's a waste of resources. And I think, tech is able to allow you to be a lot cleverer.
It's funny actually, because at the beginning of that, you kind of mentioned that in some ways you were going old school with it, but it seems like, to me at least, that you are leveraging new tools, kind of new strategies that are available. Like you said, the tools, using Facebook and stuff like that. So I don't know if that's old school to you, then you're gonna someone like me is probably going to be out of a job.
The old school. It's supposed. Do you know something? I think estate agency, there's some people in the estate agency world, all the tech, and it's all the tech, and you can make an offer online, you can book a valuation online, you can put in your solicitor details online. Do you know what? That's not me, right? And but I get valuation tools online, I think, is very clever, but I think it's very much still a people business. So I'm wanting to mix the old school values of service. You deal with me throughout the whole way through. I'll hold your hand the whole way through, just as I would have done in 2005 or 1999. But if tech makes your life easier, then you'd be foolish not to implement. So it's a little bit of a hybrid, a little bit of the best of both. Automation for me to generate business, I think is great, but too much automation for the client, and I actually think they get put off by that. And I think if the market's going to be a little bit more bumpier, they like the reassurance of speaking to somebody on the phone. Listen, that's maybe not going to be for everybody, but I think there's a valuable lesson learned that the online agents in the tech sphere offering the cheap fee, their market share is hovering between 3 and 5% and hasn't really, in fact, has been going backwards over the last year, 18 months. So I think if certain firms want to move in that direction, tech, I'm happy for them to do that, because I think, good old-fashioned estate agency done well, whether you've got a high street office or not, I think that's clearly making up 95% of the market, and that's the part of the market that I want to be in. And importantly, I think fees. Again, the LinkedIn poll that I did last week, very few sellers will only go with an estate agent because they're the cheapest fee. That's not the motivation for the vast majority of sellers. The vast majority of sellers, they just want to go with somebody that's going to hold their hand, that they're going to trust, that they feel's got their best interests of heart the whole way through. That's the most important thing over the highest valuation or having a high street office or offering dirt cheap fees. And my view is that if something is maybe too cheap, what corners are being cut? Because corners have to be cut somewhere to do it cheap. And now I'm reassuringly expensive. I have to be that bit more expensive, and I want to be. And I think I think for many agents who considering self-employment, they've got to have confidence and say, do you know what? I'm worth that. I'm worth that fee because I can add value. I can add real value and negotiate and give the vendor all my attention and utilize my skills to extract the best possible price for them. If you've got that confidence, then go for it. In the world of self-employed estate agency, because cheap fees are not, from what I'm feeling now, what the market wants.
So if you had to advise, say, a new estate agent entering the market, whether that's working in a traditional model in a high street office, or maybe they're actually taking a little bit more of an entrepreneurial route, they're going in a more of a self-employed model today, given where we are in the market right now, what would your advice be to them if they were starting out today?
If somebody's so I got into estate agency as part of work experience when I was 16, then and loved it. Admittedly, the high street office is a different beast now than it was then, because it was just a hive of activity back then, with the phone ringing off the hook and people coming in, and it was a real buzz, and it was that energy that I really liked. But I learned my trade. A lot of people, because I was at Purple Bricks, people or listeners might be forgiven for thinking I'm very anti-high street estate agency. I'm not at all. There are some brilliant high street estate agents out there. I used to be a high street agent. All the best agents out there, whether they're self-employed or online players, they all started off in a high street office. I would discourage anybody wanting to get into property from going straight to an online agent, and the reason being, you spend a lot of time on your own. And I would encourage anybody also not to go into the true style of self-employed estate agency from the beginning as well. And the reason why is this: when you're sat in an office and the office manager is there or the director's there and there's a couple of negs in there, you hear, and the phones are ringing, you hear the conversations. And I think nobody really gives nobody sits an exam to become an estate agent per se, which is that's a different rabbit hole for us to go down on another day. But the best estate if anybody's watched the old cop series from the 1970s or 80s, Columbo, and he was a little bit maverick, and how he learned to be the best cop in America was, he would listen to that one's conversation, and he would listen to this one's conversation and that one, and then he kind of put it all together and solve the crime. And I think if you're starting off in estate agency, you need to be sitting in that environment, in an agency with other people, and listen to the conversations that the negs and the manager, etc., are having on the phone with clients, how they handle offers, how to work, how to handle emotion. I think there's valuable skills to be learned from that. You can't learn it all from LinkedIn or a blog post, or you're on somebody's email list. There's nothing like old-fashioned training. I dealt with newbies at Purple Bricks who were lovely, brilliant people, and we did our best to train them on the job, but they were at a disadvantage by not knowing certain lingos and how things worked, and especially when things were sales were agreed and then massaged all the way to exchange and completions and down valuations and problems with surveys, etc. Dealing with all that stuff is so valuable, and I think anybody starting out, you've got to go for a high street agency that's busy, a busy office with plenty of hustle and bustle and conversations and phones ringing. A sleepy one-man office, don't do it. You want to go somewhere where there's loads of action and just be a sponge and go in and listen and learn. And the other thing that I have to stress to any newbies going into the business, you've got to when there's valuations happening, you want to be putting your hand in the air saying, take me with, take me with, take me with. It amazes me how many negs have been negs for a couple of years. And I say to them, well, how many valuations have you done? Oh, well, I've not really done any. And you say, all right, okay, well, how many valuations have you been out on? Oh, well, I've been out on one. Well, what do you mean you've been out on one? You want to be going out, if there's 3 valuations a day happening in the diary, you want to be going on at least one. So you really want to be doing 4 or 5 valuations every week. And the only way to learn, in my opinion, or I learned, was just listening to others and what they're doing. And some bits I pinched, and some bits I thought, well, that's not working. I don't like that. And you mush it all together and you create your own style. But if you're not exposed to everybody else's style and how they're doing, you're just not going to learn. So it's very much one of these professions that you can learn on the job. And you know what? You might be ready for self-employment, I would say minimum after 2 or 3 years, but you need to be soaking up as much as you possibly can. And you want to be attending as many valuations as you can. And you want to be attending the photo shoots of taking properties on, and and helping them adjust, that moving the oven gloves and moving the toothbrush and toothpaste in the bathroom. That's what I did. And if there was viewings to be done at 8-9 o'clock at night, do them. And you got to work so it's not for the faint-hearted estate agency, because it can be 6 days a week and late nights, but it's an enjoyable, rewardable profession for those that want to put the graft in. But candidly, I think the opportunities to learn the craft are on the high street, or a commercial agency that maybe doesn't have a high street, simply somewhere where there's people that you can listen and watch.
Love it. Okay, let's switch it up for a second.
Okay.
We're going to have a little bit of fun with a couple of questions, right? So not too much strategy now. This is just purely a little bit of fun. Okay. Stuff I'm curious to hear your thoughts on.
Okay.
Okay. First question I got for you. What is a pet peeve you have within the property industry, or something that really gets under your skin?
All right. Tea towels, toothpastes, toilet brushes, toilet seats up, cars in driveways. There's one of them. Because it's a bit like Ebbs, you're a handsome looking guy. Would you take a picture of yourself to put on a dating app, and you've got chocolate all around your mouth and your hair's not brushed and your jumper's got a rip in it? No, of course you wouldn't. You'd make sure you've had a nice clean face, you've brushed your teeth, your hair's looking slick, you got a nice shirt on, you'd look your best. And I think agents that don't present their clients properties in the best possible light, a line that I'll often use when I've been looking after people is, I'll say, can you put your name to that? Are you happy with that brochure? Are you happy to put, if I said to your mum, if I showed this to your mum and says, look what he's done, look what do you think your mum would be proud of that brochure? No, not really. I says, well, these little things I think make the difference. Another pet peeve that I'm not a big fan of on brochures, I should say, is it is with such pleasure that we bring to the market this 3-bedroom. Or we have been, we are delighted to have this. We are so proud to represent a lot. There's too much flowery language and it being used, and I think it's just a lot of waffle. Another pet peeve of mine when agents are marketing properties, and there's one agent in particular that if he's listening, he'll know I'm referring to him. Is he'll say, well, it's near the local shops and transport. Like, well, and it's near the local schools. Well, what local schools? What local transport? People want to know: is it near Brampton Primary? Is it near the local Asda? Is it near East Ham Tube? It's basic stuff, and I think there has been probably an element. Well, there's sometimes there's elements of sloppiness and laziness in a estate agency, and I guess we're all human at the end of the day. But I think if you're doing the job right and you're enthusiastic, but if you can't be bothered, what I really should say, that if you can't be bothered to do to write the local tube and write the restaurants and write what schools, you're probably in the wrong profession, because if you can't be bothered, then this industry is not for you. And you need to have a long, hard look at yourself in the mirror, basically. So those would be my pet peeves.
I'll share something with you after this. So I received a video viewing for a property and looking at one of the biggest agents. Obviously, I'm not going to name who they are. And watched the video viewing. It was full of tea towels, full of toilet paper, clothes, dirty dishes, and it put me off. It really did put me off. And I know that it shouldn't, but it did. So funny that was kind of the first thing you said. I'll show it to you off camera.
Many a time I'm touching customers' toilet seats and taking underwear off, a rental property, and they've got boxer shorts drying on the radiator, and I'm thinking, oh, you know what, I've got to do it, and you know what, you do it, and I think more so than ever, not really, but it's my estate agency, my name, my brand, and if I have a property in my books and there's pants on the floor and it just doesn't look right and it reflects on me. So it's just little attention to detail, I guess. That would be a pet peeve.
All right. Okay. So next question: how has a failure, I'm going to put that in inverted commas, led to a later success? Or do you have a favorite failure that you look back at? Can be any point along your entire career where at the time, it was maybe a failure for you. Could be a big one, could be a small one, but then later on that actually led to something good came out of that.
A failure that's maybe become good. Listen, I firmly believe that many valuations you've got to try, when the client says no, and maybe I've gone with somebody else, and we all get that sinking feeling, and many agents will come back to the office and, oh yeah, I think I probably got that, and then you're waiting for the phone call to say, yeah, it's yours. When can you come back? And they're very, very sorry, I'm going with such and such and such and such estate agency instead. And you're like, oh, fair, right? And we've all been there, me included, and any estate agent that says otherwise is a lying, cheating toe rag, right? Because it's not true. But we've all got. So how do you get it back? How do you salvage something from the jaws of defeat? And I think what I've learned very much over the last 5 years that Purple Bricks taught me, specifically Kenny Bruce, one of the founding brothers, is, which he's been very clever at, is social awareness. Social testimonials from clients that have done that you've looked after, and the power of testimonials, and what reach they have. And there's been occasions where I've lost an instruction, and then I've simply, rather than store my testimonials in a little black file and never dust them down, I've sent them over a couple of my recent testimonials, and all of a sudden there's a change in tone, and oh well, hang on a wee second, and I've won instructions that way. So rescuing stuff from the jaws of defeat, and I think I'd just encourage all agents out there who are getting reviews, use them. That's what they're there for. Use them, and because at the end of the day, it's your reputation and social proof. That's the phrase I was looking for. The power of social proof. Never underestimate it. So I think any agent that is not shouting from the rooftops about what they're doing, that is a negative that they should be able to quickly turn into an easy win and an easy positive. And sometimes estate agents aren't great at well, maybe they are, at talking about themselves, and I think, and building their own brand, and I think that's probably more important than ever. And I think brand and branding over the last few years has taught me that it is important, but it's now moving. Things are moving. You only have to look at influencers on Instagram, and I'm certainly not comparing myself to that, but it's that social proof, and I think that's where things are going to pivot moving forward. So I've knocked my pan in for too long now, working for others and not building other people's brands, and I've learned so much. But now it's time to just focus on my brand and my testimonials and harnessing the power that they have, rather than giving leverage to somebody else. I'm sure I can think of others, but you might have to come back to me.
Yeah, that's cool. We'll circle back around to it, but I think actually it's a really good point you brought up, and it's something that is really often overlooked. Like you say, the power of social proof, and just a tip that we give to estate agents when we speak to them. Yes, of course, you always want to get that review, you always want to get that testimonial. Sometimes if it means that you have to go a little bit of an extra mile to get that testimonial, do it, because if you've done a good job, one, they're going to be more than happy to give it to you, and really the second thing there that we've seen is that testimonials are everywhere in the form of a written sentence, right? You often see it online in Google reviews or Facebook reviews, and they're amazing, right? You've got to build up your review pool. What we found though is the more personalized they can be, the better. So even if that's just having the name, having a photo, really though the best possible type of review and testimony we've seen is in the form of a video, just like this, where it could be literally you and the vendor perhaps saying, how was your experience? Or if they're just filming a 30-second video for you. A couple of months ago, I probably wouldn't have been recommending this, but with everything that's happened, people are really migrating to feel more comfortable online. And, one video review can carry the weight of 10 written reviews because, we've seen this for so long now, and this is just how it works. When you've seen something so many times, it almost loses its punch. So we're finding that video is so much more powerful. If you can get that, then just an advice to the audience, go ahead and get it, because you'll be surprised. A lot of people are happy to do it. And oftentimes it's a little bit of a compliment, that you kind of want to show them off. You'd be surprised what you can get if you ask.
And if there's agents out there that are maybe shy or not overly keen on getting reviews, you gotta look at yourself in the mirror and not be shy. If you think you've done a good job, the vendor, I'm sure, will think the same. It would be exactly say the same thing. You've got to ask, and from experience managing people, I've asked them for a review and they've said they'll do it, but they haven't done it yet. Well, sometimes you've got to ask a second time and a third time. So if you've done a good job, sometimes I think asking more than 3 times is way too much. But sometimes, yes, you've got to give clients a little bit of a nudge and encouragement to do that review, because everybody's leading busy lives. But if you've done a good job, as I say, they'll be prepared to do it. And you're absolutely right. Video seems to be the way forward, and that's a great tip. You've got my mind whirling that I've got a couple of testimonials that that are outstanding, and I'm going to ask them to do a quick video rather than write a few sentences. So thanks for that, Ed.
No worries. And I guess one final tip on that then is with these reviews, in the back of people's mind when they're reading reviews, they kind of know that some of them are going to be made up, right? Let's be honest. There are enough people out there who are unfortunately abusing the system of reviews that we know that to some extent. So what we found is the less professional, the more personal the review is, the better, which just means taking out your phone and talking with, stuff in the background. Maybe this is where having a not perfect background actually comes in as a positive for a change. But that's all it is. And what that does is it actually makes it easier and more comfortable for the person to leave the review, because you're saying, look, just a quick 30-second video on your phone, just like if you were sending a video to a friend, and we'd really appreciate that. So that's kind of the tip.
You just have to look at the adverts on the TV during lockdown, from your NatWest to your Asda's to your, it's all, they've got the big powerful marketing advertising agencies behind that, and that's what's proving to work at the moment, which is real people in their real homes living real life experiences just like you. And so no, great tip. Thanks Ed.
Awesome. Okay, one kind of final question to wrap up on. It's your last day on the planet, so hopefully this is well into the future. You can't leave anything physical behind. Your business, your assets, you can't leave anything behind to the people you love, to your family, but you can leave them one piece of advice. What would you leave them with?
Right. There's a great expression that I've come across, which is, it's an Irish expression. If you give it out in slices, you'll get it back in loaves. And that basically means, I'm happy to help. I'm happy to give advice. I'm happy to post in certain groups and offer. I'm not really looking for anything. I'm not doing a sales pitch, but if I give myself to others and give expertise and give my thoughts or recommendations without selling, I'm going to get it back. I'm going to get it back. They're going to think of me as offering something refreshingly different. So all I would really say is it's an Irish expression: if you give it out in slices, you'll get it back in loaves. Which is why I'm, from doing a little bit of charitable work, to I've done some mentoring in the past, to helping. I've got a couple of relatives in property. I just like the idea of just trying to offering a little bit of help, and I think that's good karma, and I think many can maybe relate to that, especially during the climate that we're in, of maybe being less selfish, less thinking of our own, and in many respects, I don't want the old ways to all go back to normal. I think there's going to be a new normal. And I think there's lots of terrible things that are happening through this COVID crisis, but also some real positives too. And I know you said one, but number two is, you always just try and leave a good name. Reputation in an industry where you're servicing an industry that I'm in, and the industry doesn't actually have the best of reputation. So if you're a gent and you do the right thing, karma. And so it's treat people how you'd want to be treated yourself.
Love it. I've never heard that phrase before. If you give it out in slices, you'll get it back in loaves. I really like that. I really like. You said it was an old.
It's an old Irish saying. Yeah.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Well, look, I think that's a perfect place to wrap up. And I just want to thank you for your time.
I know. Thanks for having me.
I know you've got loads going on at the moment. This had to get rescheduled because you were helping a client last time, which I totally respect. So yeah, I just want to thank you for coming on. Giving your valuable time and advice.
Anytime. I'm enjoying your LinkedIn posts and your content. And thanks for having me.
Thanks very much.